They tried to corner your emotions, but you turned every shadow into sacred power. They wanted to see how far they could push you, but they ran out of courage before you ran out of strength. They wanted to test your forgiveness, not realizing forgiveness is your rebellion, not your weakness. They're shocked because you didn't fight back. You simply outgrew the battlefield. They tried to drown you in doubt, but you learned to breathe underwater. They tested your loyalty, and now they know they'll never find that kind of devotion again. They thought they were clever, but they forgot. Your intuition hears what their lips never said. They're stunned that the same heart they tried to break still beats with compassion. They wanted to test your patience, but all they exposed was their own impatience with peace. They underestimated how calm destruction can look when it's guided by divine timing. They poked at your wounds, hoping you'd bleed. Instead, you bloomed. They thought your detachment meant disinterest. It was protection born from pain. They're realizing now your silence is not empty. It's full of lessons they'll never understand. They tried to twist your truth, but your energy never lied. They thought you'd chase them, but you chose your dignity instead. They tested your softness, and it terrified them when they saw the strength inside it. They never expected the person they tried to manipulate to become their mirror. They're shocked that you stayed kind in a world that taught you cruelty. They tested your limits and accidentally revealed your limitless nature. They tried to drain your light, but instead, they ended up standing in their own darkness. They're realizing the test they gave you was the lesson meant for them. They pushed your buttons, not knowing you'd already disconnected their control. They wanted to test your patience. Now they're haunted by how calm you stayed. They wanted to make you jealous, and instead, you made them irrelevant. They're stunned that the one they mocked is now the one they secretly admire. They tested your worth, and now they regret discovering your value too late. They expected your breakdown, but you gave them your breakthrough. They thought you'd react in rage. You answered in divine restraint. They set you up to fail, but fate had already written your victory. They're shocked because you didn't seek revenge. You let karma handle the details. They wanted to disturb your peace, but your silence became their punishment. They thought you'd come crawling back, but you walked forward with power. They tested your emotional control, and now they fear the calm you carry. They wanted to see if you'd break, but you built an empire from every attempt. They were sure you'd fold under pressure, but you turned it into purpose. They tried to make you doubt yourself, but your spirit recognized the test immediately. They thought they could outsmart you, but you were never playing their game. They're shocked to realize your peace isn't fake, it's sacred and earned. They tested your reaction, and instead, they witnessed your evolution. They wanted to prove you were ordinary, but everything about your glow said otherwise. They sent chaos to test your balance, but you danced through it effortlessly. They're stunned that you knew their intentions, but still met them with love. They thought you'd panic in silence, but silence is where you found your power. They wanted to see you struggle, but the universe promoted you instead. They tested your healing, and now they're uncomfortable with your peace. They expected your tears, but your smile destroyed their expectations. They tried to make you jealous, not knowing your heart no longer competes. They thought they were breaking your heart. They were only polishing your soul. They're shocked that you saw through the test and still chose to rise, not retaliate. They tested your heart and discovered its strength terrifies them. They plotted your fall, but the universe used their plan to lift you higher. They wanted to see your anger, but your calm unnerved them more. They tested your love, but they weren't ready for the purity they received. They wanted to make you question yourself, but now they're questioning their own worth. They're stunned that what was meant to break you became your rebirth story. They wanted to push you away, and now they can't find peace without your energy. They tested your light and realized too late they'll never glow that bright. They wanted to see you crawl, but you soared instead. They thought they could control your story, but you became the author. They tested your soul, and now they know you were never just human, you were divine all along. They tried to expose your weakness, but instead they witnessed your quiet strength that even storms fear to disturb. They set traps to see you fall, yet all they saw was your unshakable grace, standing tall in the wreckage. They pushed you to your breaking point, and now they're stunned that you've turned every wound into wisdom. They wanted to prove you were fragile, but you became a mirror reflecting their own insecurities. They tested your patience, not realizing it's built from years of pain you already survived. They thought your silence was surrender, but it was your strategy for peace and protection. They watched you walk through fire and expected ashes, but you walked out glowing like dawn itself. They underestimated the kind of heart that bleeds light even when surrounded by shadows. They played games to measure your reaction, and instead, they met your divine detachment. They wanted to see how far they could go before you broke, but you were already reborn. They wanted to shake your peace, yet their chaos couldn't even reach your frequency. They misjudged your calm for weakness, not knowing it's the language of the healed. They wanted to witness your downfall, but the universe turned the test into your testimony. They never thought you'd notice the test, but you've been reading souls like open books. They wanted to expose your flaws, but they only revealed their obsession with your strength. They're shocked because they realize you never needed them to validate your power. They wanted to see you beg, but you showed them how silence speaks louder than pleading. They're baffled that you didn't collapse. Instead, you built a throne from every betrayal. They wanted to see your weakness, and instead, they saw your rebirth. They tried to shake your foundation, but they forgot you're made of something sacred. They threw shade, yet you bloomed under it. Now they're wondering how. They wanted to provoke your rage, but you responded with divine indifference. They tested your love to see if it was real, and it was, just not for them anymore. They thought they could manipulate your emotions, but you've become untouchable in your peace. They set emotional traps, but you walked through them with your intuition as armor. They're shocked that after everything, you still love without bitterness. They wanted to see you react, but all they saw was evolution. They studied your breaking points, unaware that you've already mastered the art of starting over. They pushed you away to test your loyalty. Now they miss the warmth you once gave freely. They whispered lies to see if you'd crumble, but truth was always your shelter. They thought they could play God in your story, but you were the divine all along. They're shocked to realize you've known the test all along and still chose love over revenge. They wanted to trigger your wounds, but you've already made peace with your scars. They thought they were testing your heart, but it was their soul being revealed. They're stunned that you saw through their games, yet never lowered your energy to match theirs. They wanted to measure your worth, but you exist beyond their limited scale. They tried to corner you emotionally, and instead, you expanded into freedom. They tested your boundaries, and now they're shocked that you actually enforced them. They didn't expect you to stay silent. Silence was your power move. They wanted to see how easily you'd fold, and instead, you built an empire in their doubt. They're realizing too late that the test wasn't yours. It was theirs, and they failed. They underestimated your intuition. You saw through them before they even spoke. They're shocked because you didn't chase them. You outgrew them quietly. They wanted to test your strength, and instead they triggered your transformation. They tried to confuse you, but you turned chaos into clarity. They thought they were manipulating a heart. They were awakening a warrior. They're stunned that the person they once controlled now walks with unbothered confidence. They tested your loyalty, and now they're haunted by your absence. They set emotional traps, forgetting you've already outgrown that level of lesson. They tested your peace, and now they envy it. They thought you'd cry, but you smiled, and that shook them more than tears ever could. They wanted to expose your insecurities, but you've already healed the places they tried to wound. They can't understand how you stayed kind after cruelty. It's the mystery of divine resilience. They're shocked that you can love deeply without losing yourself anymore. They thought you'd collapse in loneliness, but solitude became your sanctuary. They tested your limits, but you met them with grace and unshakable poise. They're confused. The version of you they tried to break doesn't exist anymore. They're stunned to see you thriving, not broken, glowing in your own new beginning.